guys, it's Ping. We're out here at Cheney Ranch for a private ride day and a ride on the Honda 2025 CRF250. Our first ride on this thing, and Jason Ficara, our test rider for today. Jason, appreciate you jumping out with us. Lots of changes on the Honda this year, something that's a little different than in the past. Typically the 450 will get changes, and then the next year you'll see it on the 250. This year both bikes got all those same upgrades, and it was with a lot of feedback from the race team, which I think is something that's pretty standard, but I think they really leaned into the Lawrences in particular on this machine, listening to what they liked, the feel and characteristic that they were looking for. And this is nothing new, right? This happened with Pastrana, with Suzuki going into 2000. This happened with Ricky. This happened with Ryan Dungey at KTM. This happened with a lot of different guys. They cater the bike to their star rider, the rider that's going to be on it for the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully winning races for them. So not a big shock that this was the pathway they took. Those changes were mostly geared at chassis feel. And we talk a lot about rigidity. You'll hear that word a lot. And a lot of people think that means, oh, they softened up the aluminum frame because aluminum frames are stiff. It's actually not right. They actually increased rigidity in a lot of places because it's kind of works, unless this is like a black magic here, the way that chassis and suspension all work and handling. But the stiffer the frame, it puts more of that flex onto suspension parts and other parts of the bike that you can control easier. If you have a frame that's flexing in certain ways, it makes it more difficult to nail down. It's a little bit looser. That's the way I understand it. Like I said, a bit of a black art. But it is a little, mostly I would say, more rigid in the chassis, the frame itself. And then some of the axle, they made a little bit thicker material and more overlap to make that firmer, and triple clamps are a little firmer. So anyway, a lot of things that try to give it a more positive feel, but also kind of a softer feel when you want it to flex. And all that to say, the Lawrences liked the feel of this thing. And so that coupled with some other changes, longer head pipe, which anytime you lengthen the head pipe of an exhaust, you're gonna get more low end power. So they added some low end power with that, got better airflow with some airbox stuff that increases high end power. So trying to gain in both places where they can. And anyway, a lot of changes. You can check the specs for that if you just go to Honda's website, and you can see all of the specs. We really wanted to give you a feel. What is it like on the track? And so I today am dressed as a track worker in my high vis. So Jason got the duties of doing the test riding. Tell us what you thought, man. What's your first impression?
So my first impression was that it felt really a lot like the previous generation, just with marginal gains. And kind of my big three things that I noticed right away, obviously like anyone else, are the chassis, the suspension, and the engine. And to me, it really felt like all three of those things kind of got those incremental gains that you would feel like someone is developing the bike, minor changes at a time, just like the race team was. And immediately, even like riding through the pits, I noticed that the throttle response was a lot better. And starting it up, like you were saying, the longer head pipe, they changed the shape of the exhaust. Starting it up, we were surprised, like, wow, this thing's actually really quiet. And then on the track, that's kind of nice too, because you can concentrate on what you're doing a little bit better. And yeah, just like you said, a little bit more compliant feel with the chassis, which is what they were aiming for. And the suspension right out of the box, I would say, is probably the biggest difference in my opinion. Last year's bike felt so harsh to me right out of the box. Like, I would need to go, as a 165 pound pro level rider, I would need to go get the suspension softened on last year's bike just to feel comfortable on it. And today I kind of got there with just clicker adjustments.
And you do like a nice supple ride, because we ended up opening up high speed, a full turn? I went a half turn. Did you go more?
Yeah, I went another 3/4 turn after that.
Okay, so we're a turn and a half out on high speed compression, and like 18 clicks out on the low speed in the back and the front compression clicker. So quite a bit softer, 2 clicks faster on rebound. And it got to where you were comfortable, but your initial comment was and now mind you, it's warm and dry out here today. The track, we couldn't keep water in it. So it's hard base with loose on top, so very slippery. And in those conditions, you want a bike to be softer and kind of squat in to bite. But we had to go way out on compression, and we were even talking about adding some sag. We set it at 100. but we were talking about going to 102 or 103. Ryan Dudek from Honda is out here with us today, and that was his recommendation. Hey man, maybe we should try a little more sag if he's opening up that much. So something to think about if you guys are feeling the same thing on your bike. Now, if we were at a Fox Raceway or somewhere with deeper soil, folks that live back east, Midwest, where you get ruts and stickier, deeper, you're gonna want it to feel a little firmer. This would be too soft of a setting. This is very much a West Coast kind of setup, but Honda did say that the valving in this suspension, the whole feel of the bike overall, is much softer than the 24. So to give you some just reference from Honda's standpoint. What did you feel in the engine?
The engine I felt like it was a lot more responsive. What I thought about the 2024 model was that I kind of like that low-end grunt feel that it had. I'm not particularly a high rever. I kind of like being able to roll corners in third and just not shift that much. And this bike definitely didn't take away from that at all, but I did feel more response in just the initial crack of the throttle. And then it pulled a little bit longer. Like I wasn't immediately searching to shift to the next gear right out of the corner like I would be on last year's bike. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Oh, that's saying a lot when it's this dry too, because you're spinning up so much. Probably with better traction, it'd pull even longer. That's interesting to hear. And I would tell you that standing on the side of the track, the note of the bike is actually pretty cool sounding. It doesn't sound quiet or muffled, but on it, you were saying it feels much quieter. So sounds like they did a good job there. Does come with the Pirelli tires, and we were talking a little bit about that. They're kind of a more aggressive tire, so not a great choice for what we have out here today. And we did feel that. You said it was a little skatey, but would work well in a sandy medium terrain type of dirt. Anything else about just the feel of the chassis? Like there was some chatter about, of course, people will hate on anything any chance they get. These shrouds, which kind of have, I thought it was cool. It reminds me of like an old Bob Hanna kind of bike era, 85 or something, a little retro looking, but some people hate it. Did you have any hang-ups? Because one of the things they talk about was kind of creating more surface area. They have some texture on the side plates to kind of give you a little more grip and just more surface, kind of leg surface area to contact to hold the bike. Did you feel any of that?
Yeah, I actually did feel it like right away when I got on the track. I thought like maybe there's some SC1 on this thing because it felt like I could move my legs around in a lot more space than I could on really any other bike, because every bike kind of has that sweet spot where you grip with your knees, and then if it moves from that, the bike's kind of too narrow or too wide or whatever. And this felt like the contact patch was so much larger, and that's why I thought it had SC1 on it initially, because I was actually found myself moving around on it. So I like it. I like the shrouds. I think it looks cool. I did get my boot caught on it once, but
was that the front or back here on the?
It was on the front.
On the front side.
But I don't know. It's not really that big of a deal.
One thing I will say, having this bigger contact patch, if you really like to grip onto your bike, you're looking for that little bit extra, you can throw some skateboard deck tape, or they have different materials, but imagine a bunch of grip tape on this, man. You could really lock onto it.
Yeah, for sure.
Tear the crap out of your boots, but you'd be stuck to it.
Yeah, I didn't feel like, after my initial impression, I really didn't feel like it was an issue of it being slippery at all, and I kind of noticed myself automatically gripping onto it pretty tight. Like throughout the day, I could feel it.
How was the action in little bumps and landings, things like that? Worked well? Was there any issues with that?
Yeah, once we got the clickers kind of set where I wanted them, it really felt like it was following the ground pretty well. What I was struggling with today was when I was putting the tire on lean and there was not really anything to bank off of. That's kind of where I was struggling. But like you said, it's dry, it's slick and edgy, and these tires are really not the good choice for that anyways. So I think it was more of a lack of good testing conditions than to say anything about the bike. And there was one rut on the track today. And when I actually could get in the rut, it was good at the end of the day, and when I got in it, the thing cornered pretty good. So judging by the one rut, it was pretty good.
We had one turn today, folks, that was good for testing, and it excelled. Well, I appreciate you coming out, man. Anything else about the bike that stood out to you? Obviously, clutch, brakes, the ergonomics of it, anything good or bad?
Yeah, the brake feel, I feel like in the past, the Honda brake feel, the front brake in particular, hasn't been my favorite at all. It just didn't feel like you could modulate it that well, and this one felt much better. The lever position was a little weird. It was a little close to the grip, but the actual modulation of the brake itself felt good. The clutch, I think, to me, it felt the same as the other one. I like hydraulic clutch, just the lever feel. I'm a hydraulic guy, but I really don't mind the cable much. It's not something that stood out as bad at all.
Well, Honda really, like I said, went all in on both models this year, and while we haven't seen this thing really excel too much through Joe Shimoda, he's having a tough year on it in the pro level. I think this bike is certainly going to be a good platform for them going into 25. And they've taken a lot of the things they learned over the years with Jet and Hunters Championships and applied it here into production, which is really the end goal of all these manufacturers. So good to see Honda delivering on that. And if you guys are interested in one of these, they are at your Honda dealers right now. Go check them out. Right at around 10 grand, give or take a little bit. So check them out. Waiting for you at your Honda dealers. Jason, I appreciate you coming out today. Jason Ficarra, one of our test riders here at Whiskey Throttle Media. And folks, appreciate you watching as always. If you like this, like, subscribe, whatever, smash the button, the whole thing, whatever they say. We'll see you on the next one. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, comment what you thought, and share it with your friends.